Welcome everyone. It's 5 days until Leagues drops, and I wanted to make a video to basically have a look at all the information we've got so far and share my current plan with you guys and see how it turns out when we actually get to League's release date. Because there's only 5 days left, we have about half the teasers, and we recently got the combat masteries dropped today, and that means I've got a pretty good plan as to how I want to play my League out, and I've got a pretty cool idea for which regions work and why, and I'm going to share some of this. This might give you guys some ideas on what you might want to try, but this should be said, if this is your first league or you're playing and you're not sure what to do, pick the raid you want to do, pick the content you want to do, and then match everything to it. It's always more fun, and it's better than trying to do some preset thing that someone told you to do. There is no strongest setup, there is no best way to play, and that's the beauty of RuneScape, and especially the beauty of Leagues. You can play your own way, do your own thing, and everything is viable. But this is my take on it. So with Leagues 5, it's the same as Trailblazer and Reloaded. It's unlockable regions, and we start with Misthalin and Karamja. From then on, we get 3 more regions to unlock, and you get to pick between these here. So Ascania, Fremennik, Kendarin, Desert, Mauritania, Tiranwin, Wilderness, Kurend, Valamor. And the first part of this is which region do you take and why? And for me, I want to do Chambers as my main raid. And the reason for this is because I think Chambers is simply the most fun raid on Leagues. It scales to 100 people. You can just get a shit ton of people in there and have a blast, which is really cool. And every league, I always do this on stream, we get a couple of 100-mans going, and it is bonkers. Just absolutely stupid in the best of ways. So there will definitely be some videos on that, because it's just always fun. And everyone, of course, if you, maybe 2 weeks into League, if you guys are interested, you are all invited. But that's why I'm picking Chambers personally. I want to do the big mass raids, and I think the variety of Chambers is a lot more interesting than Toa. Where Toa, you're kind of you have puzzles in Toa. Chambers has Ice Demon and shit, but it doesn't really matter because it's just all combat, or it's very fast. But then Toa has the damn puzzles, and it's so slow, and you're just going to have to deal with that. And I can foresee some problems with the puzzles and stuff. Oh, man. And then there's Tob is great. Tob is good as well, because it's pure combat. So Tob is fine, but Nilos is slow, and you can't speed up Nilos. So every raid going to have its things like Chambers as crabs, and it's going to be shit, but hey, it's 25 seconds, sometimes less. Whereas the other 2 raids, a bit hit and miss. But again, pick the raid you want to go for. I just like Chambers, good massing. And my routing for this is going to be to pick range as my primary combat style. And the reason for range is because, especially now we've had the combat style, combat masteries show up, and I'll get to this in a little bit. The routing works with range very well. And so because we can only pick 3 regions to go with our base region, my routing is going to be Tiranwin start, followed by Kurend, into Fremennik. And the reason for this is because each region has a Echo boss related to it. Each Echo boss drops an item or a set of items that gives you specific bonuses. And building all of that into it, building all of that combined with the base items you get from the bosses, just makes it a really strong way to build range. And so here's some of my thoughts on why those regions stand out in particular, and I can do this by having a look at some of the items they drop. So just to go through these real quick, this is what we currently know, and this is how I see it. The Drygor Blowpipe is one of the useless items. One of the most useless items, and I think people are getting the wrong idea of this, because it's got really good, it's like a ranged fang. Very, very accurate. But the biggest issue with this is that League's power levels have always given players tremendous accuracy, to the extent that items that give you accuracy are redundant. And so this item is just made pointless by the fact that down here, the combat masteries, you get accuracy anyway. Makes it pointless. And the T6 range relic, if you go T6 and you take this for range, it loses its effect, because it's already 100% accurate. So giving it more accuracy, again, pointless. The Dog Sword is fantastic, really good sustain, good damage, generally fun item. Very, very good for point farming if you're going for Dragon Trophy and stuff. So I can absolutely see the Dog Sword being good in general. The Thunder Compassion 1000 Dragon Ward, I get it, but I don't think it's that interesting. If you like wilderness stuff, okay, but I don't think it's the play personally. The Gloves of the Damned are mostly for Daroks. Daroks can hit some disgusting numbers. A theoretical max hit of something like 900, with a realistic max hit of consistently 60, 70, 80. Hilarious maxes, I know, but that's just Leagues for you. And that can be fun, I'm sure, but again, it's okay, it's not crazy. And then I'm going to skip over one to get to the Devil's Element. I think this is generally not that great, and Kandarin is seen as the weakest region so far. But hey. And then the rest of these are actually quite interesting. These rings are insanely strong from Fremennik. And this is the reason I want to go Fremi eventually, is because these rings give you like 60 accuracy to all style bonuses. And then it gives you like 30 range strength, 30 melee strength bonus, and defense bonuses. So it just like takes all of your stats and elevates them massively. Plus, we have to remember, we're not fighting main game max gear versus max leagues gear. We're fighting what gear is obtainable within specific regions versus leagues max gear. So the power difference of like comparing a Torture to an Emperor Amulet of the Monarchs, that's not quite what we're doing, because you may not actually have access to an Amulet of Torture. You may not have access to an Occult. So these actually give you way more power than any other thing you could possibly have. These rings alone are the strongest item in this whole chart, as far as I'm concerned. The Crystal Blessing basically makes your melee very accurate with a bit more damage. It just gives the crystal armor accuracy and damage bonuses to your weapons. And it's one of the few things in this area that gives you a direct damage bonus on top of your base weaponry. So this is really strong, and you get this from Tyranwin. That's what I'm looking for. And then you have from Kurend, the Nature's Reprisal. This is a solid weapon to take to chambers, but arguably we might be too far ahead if you're speedrunning and trying to get to endgame to actually make use of it, because Hespori has a grow time, and by the time Hespori's grown, you might already have a T-bow. So this weapon's a bit hit and miss, but we are going to go get it anyway, and it could still be good at chambers if you're lacking a Mega Rat at that time. And lastly, the Sunlight Spear and Sunlight Braces. The braces are like kind of mid, whatever, but the spear is very good and has some very high damage output, especially for top. So I can see people going for Valamor, and I think Valamor is going to be one of the most interesting and fun locations. So potentially, and of course it contains Colosseum with the Echo Soul fight, so it could be really, really fun. But the Sunlight Spear is very good as well. But thinking about the regions I pick here, which is going from Tyranwin into Kurend into Fremennik, I'm going to be getting this Blessing and the Amulet of the Monarchs and Emperor Ring, so just a ton of damage plus an all-rounder weapon. So I do lose out on the potential of the Sunlight Spear, but that's really all I'm actually missing. Things like the Dog Sword seem good on paper, but if I'm searching for max DPS, this weapon doesn't give me that. It just gives me like crazy sustain. And I don't quite want sustain. I want to just kill everything in 20 seconds flat, like Inferno, Zuck dead in 30 seconds. And we can do that this league. So, when we start with Tyranwin for my current range build, my thought process is, if I'm picking range and going to T6 on range, I need a blowpipe. And then the concept of like the Drygore blowpipe, well, okay, I get accuracy anyway, no point picking that, and I lose a whole region if I pick desert. So getting blowpipe from Zulrah, nice and easy, fantastic. We also get Trident for doing chambers, if we want to. But more importantly, before we even get blowpipe, we can go into CG. And this seems a bit backwards, because you usually go Zulrah then CG. But this is leagues, and we can run into CG almost immediately. And it's quite interesting because we'll have at least a couple of the combat relic masteries already sorted out. So we're not going to be weak. Even at 40 combat, you can do Gauntlet. And you'll actually train your combat stats and everything in Gauntlet. So that is my plan. Get to Tyranwin ASAP. Jump into the Gauntlet and come out with a full set of Crystal Armor, a Bofa, and a Sail Door. That might take the better half of one full day, but that's not that long in the grand scheme of things. This is assuming that I get lucky on like one enhanced seed, and then maybe I can not go for the Sail Door immediately. But as soon as you have a Bofa with the Range Relic at level 5 or 6, which you can do within a day if you're rushing, that gives you a 2-tick Bofa. And that should be the first goal here in terms of the range build. Get to Tyranwin, get a Bofa, get T6. Or T5 at least. This is on the combat masteries down here. When you get to T5, that's where my mouse is now, this gives you the 50%, attack rate set to 50% rounded down, or up depending. So Bofa 4-tick becomes 2-tick. And the second you have a 2-tick Bofa, you can then go to chambers and just destroy chambers. You have a Trident from Zulrah, I say not straight to chambers, but you can go straight to Zulrah and get a Trident from Zulrah and a Serp Helm if you want it. So then you have a Bofa and a Trident, and you can get a Sailor if you want it, or you can kill the Hespori for the melee weapon. And that gives you a good trifecta to work with to do chambers. And this is my second region, is to go chambers, to go Kurend. And the concept of doing a raid second is that if you are anywhere decent at a raid, you stand to benefit massively in terms of points and unlocks and mega rares and damage potential if you pick a raid second. And a lot of people will think, well, I want to pick a raid third because that's where like I want to spend the end game. But we unlock regions fairly quickly. And having a raid second and being able to go there early means you get a big advantage as long as you can raid. So if you're completely new to raiding or this is your first league, maybe you pick the raid last. But you can definitely get in there, especially with the help of one or two friends or just like ask around in leagues, you know? And you will get taken to some raids or you will be able to do some yourself. And the power levels of this league are like astonishingly high, as always. So we can definitely get into raids really fast. And at that point, you basically just grind mega rares. You just grind whatever you need to from the Chamber's item log. And again, this league, every raid drops every mega rare. So T-Bow Scythe Shadow is present in every raid. And once you have that, it's really wherever you want to go. I want to go to Fremi, so I can grab the Assembler. And that will give me the 99% ammo save, which is like infinite ammo for ranging. So with a range build, 2-tick T-Bow, 1-tick Blowpipe, 2-tick Bofa, potentially 2-tick Venator Bow if I even want that, 1-tick Dragon Knives from Hydra, off you go. You get the, you're just off, you're done. People wondering where I'm getting Dragon Arrows and Dragon Darts and Dragon Knives from. Dragon Knives are from Hydra, Dragon Darts can be from Vorkath, or you can get them from Brimstone Chests from Konar Slayer, and you have to do some Slayer anyway, because you need it for the combat masteries. So that gives us all the ammo we would ever need. And yes, you can't create darts unless you have desert, but you can fletch them. So it won't actually be too much of a problem to upkeep ammo. Vorkath, I mean, you don't have to kill him much at all to get all the ammo you'd ever need. So between the Assembler, between the Dragon ammunition, between the Blowpipe, and then T-Bow, that's your bread and butter. My end game for this is not just to do chambers, masses and stuff, it's also to go to Inferno and try and get some sub 20-minute Infernos. We should be able to go really fast this league. We're talking like sub 20 quite happily. Maybe not 15 minutes, maybe like 16, 17, 18, but pretty fast. The question of whether magic is actually better is a bit 50-50 because this is the combat masteries that came out today. Basically, you can pick any 10 of these, plus you get the passives for free. And it comes down to like, does never miss with range beat essentially max hitting anything below your max hit with magic? And for most of the waves, it might be the case that magic is slightly better. Slightly better. But with range, you have much better times dealing with mages, Jads, and Zuk. And because a decent amount of the waves just die instantly anyway, or you can use 1-tick weaponry, I think range comes out on top slightly. And it seems to be the calcs and the damage and the maths and all that seems to support this. Range is the primary damage style this league. Magic is still incredibly strong, and melee is okay. Not great, but it's okay. Of course, there's 5 spoilers remaining, and we're not at the league yet, so this could flip on its head entirely. But that's also the fun of this. But I think that with range and having a look at the calcs, basically T-Bow comes out on top everywhere. Pretty much everywhere. Even places like Verzik, you're pretty much just winning with range. And while Scythe and Darox has incredible potential, it's not quite beating it. Again, certain places maybe. Things like Tecton that are completely immune to range, you have to melee. Things like all melee hand and mage hand and head have damage reductions of 1/3 if you're using the wrong style. That's not something that you bypass with more accuracy. It's not a prayer penetration thing like the T6 passive. You just don't do the damage. So, for example, me whacking the melee hand with a Sail Door with tier 3 or tier 4 melee relic beats blowpiping or T-bowing with 100% accuracy on the melee hand, according to the current calcs. So it's good to know that for things like Olm, you'll still have to have a bit of a style difference in how you fight it, but at the end of the day, we're dealing with it in the sense of like nearly in max gear. Even if I'm meleeing and maging away, I've still got a shadow, I've still got full ancestral, augury, rigor, everything, you know. So it's kind of chill. Now, the other fun part to my build and the range route is not just like the range power that I get from the regions, it's also the fact that each of the regions, Iranwin, Remy, Korend, have really good ways to train skills. So all the combat skills are just like dead gives, you know, you get 99s in them really easily. Prayer may be a bit funny, but as soon as we get to Vorkath, we have 99 prayer, no problem. And there might be a relic or two that helps you train prayer. I know there is one already that gives you increased prayer if you just use coins on the altar, which is free. As far as the other skills go, bring my game up real quick. We run through them. I think there are good methods for all of them in the regions I've chosen. So to start with, we have my cannon's gone. Rip. So mining is fine at blast mine. If you need to do that, that's pretty free. You don't need a pickaxe for it, so it doesn't matter. And you can just blast mine your way through in Zaya. Agility is agility, it doesn't matter where you are, it's going to be awkward to train. But you do get dark relics from chambers, which increases your agility XP massively if you want to. Smithing is very good in Terranwin, because in Terranwin you get Priftindus, and Priftindus has Zalcano, lots and lots of gold bars, mithril bars, and that lets you smith in the area there. Fishing is a bit funky, but I'm planning on taking the harpoon, and the harpoon is the where is it? It's one of the first relics released over here, and this lets you catch fish faster. It gives you hunter traps never failing, stuff like that. So both fishing and hunter are sorted with this relic in the first place. And things like chins also give you more XP, which is really fantastic because you can catch crystal implings, you can get ammo from crystal imps early. In Terranwin, hunter traps don't fail. You can get chins, so you can chin to 99 range massively fast. You can go into Seragnis's area if you want red spider eggs or potions. The HP doesn't matter because you have lifesteal, so it's only prayer that matters. So we might get, for example, chins from Terranwin, take them to Kurend, chin them in the spider area. That gives us brews and stuff from the chest in there. It also gives us range XP to 99. It also gives us red spider eggs, and this circle keeps on going. It's really cool. So then we have Herblore. Chambers shits out herbs. Nice and easy. So does Zora to an extent. Thieving is thieving. Priftindus is amazing for thieving. Cooking is free. It just is. Crafting. Zora drops flax if you even need to. I don't think going for the DK's route you need to craft much. But there's always a necessity to some extent. But Zora dropping flax makes that easy. At least for the most of the levels. And Chambers drops gems as well. So I think it does. Maybe I'm going crazy, but I think Chambers drops gems. So you should have a good time with Chambers regardless. Firemaking is Wintertop, and that also goes for fletching and what was it? Firemaking, fletching, and woodcutting. All of these are trained at Wintertop, which I unlock with Kurend, so that's no problem at all. Fletching to some extent will be darts or dragon darts if I get my hands on them later on from like 90 to 99 or whatever it is. Runecrafting is a bit awkward. A lot of lamps and XP might go on that. But we do have Blood Runecrafting and Soul Runecrafting if we want to go there. And if you take Arceus, if you take Kurend, you have access to the Arceus library, which means you can train Prayer, I think, is it Prayer? And also Magic and Runecrafting there, if you need some early levels. Farming should be free with the Farming Relic, but you also have access to the Farming Guild, which is notoriously OP, and so we might take that as well. But regardless, that's free. Remy sorts out construction, as far as I'm aware, gives you access to the crafting construction supplies area, and so this lets you, I believe, get an ornate pool in your house if you even want one, but otherwise construction is construction, it's fine, it's not too hard to get pretty fast XP rates in leagues. Slayer is Slayer, there's a Slayer dungeon in Priftindus, gives us access to some fun items like the Dark Bow, but in general, Slayer's Slayer. Very good to do Konar Slayer if you take Zaya, simply for the Brimstone key chances, and there's probably going to be tasks to do with Slayer tasks or to do with Konar, so that's expected. And lastly, Hunter again is covered by the Animal Wrangler, this thing over here. So pretty comprehensive plan for the entirety of the skills as well if you take these regions. You won't actually get many spellbook opportunities other than the Zaya one, so you can get Arceus if you want it. There's still not a lot of information about special attack relics or special attack modifiers and things like that, and it's hard to say what they're really going to end up being. So it would make sense that special attack would be a strong system in League, in which case you could probably just take Arceus and just spam Death Charge if you want it. But right now I have no clue as to what it's going to end up being. Regardless, I don't think spellbooks are that strong. I mean, they did have like Thrall buff relics in previous leagues. But at the end of the day, your right clicks do so much more damage than spells ever will, that it doesn't really matter what spells you're on or what spellbook you're on. So, not too big a deal. And that's my routing for the most part currently. There's still 5 days left, lots of twists and turns, I'm sure. But it feels really comprehensive, and it does look like range is coming out on top this league, which is going to be quite fun, since last league was more or less entirely mage dominated. So this combat masteries thing we had to look through. Again, I'll run through a couple of things to league and then head off. But This is all pretty straightforward. They like match each other all the way down, and it just comes down to like a little bit more damage immediately, followed by a little bit more damage, followed by attack speed reduction, followed by lifesteal, followed by massive attack speed reduction, followed by the gimmick of the T6 effect. So this is an interesting read. It's all on the wiki if you want to go check it out. Again, I think this never missed with range is like much stronger than people realize, because your accuracy, even if you have like almost perfect accuracy with like shadow and stuff, especially as NPCs get kind of crazy or echo bosses get kind of crazy, what tends to happen is you cap out at about 90 to 95% accuracy, even with a shadow. And it can go as high as like 96, 97, 98 on certain NPCs. But the difference with never miss compared to only sometimes miss is incredible. And this this T6 couples very well with the T1 over here. So damage rolls beneath 30% of max hit with range are increased to 30%, which means if you never miss and you have to roll at least 30% of your max hit, you always do a minimum hit of 30%, which is always just very strong compared to other things. Because I think you can just min roll with magic. If something is above your max hit, you can just min roll it repeatedly, which takes away from your DPS tremendously when you're fighting high HP NPCs. This is not true for range. So that's why I think range is OP this time around. So that's my thoughts on the Echo bosses or Echo equipment. As far as the bosses go, I don't really know anything about them yet. Just gotta wait to see. I think the only hint we have so far is that they will probably be praying against you as the player. They will have overhead prayers you have to try and work around, which is really cool. And I hope they got some more powers and some more effects and some more mechanics. But I believe that's probably going to be the base opportunity. You have to attack them with the correct style. And the concept of this T6 passive is that you can hit through the Echo boss styles with 60% prayer penetration. So even if it's not quite the right style, you still get some good damage on them. I think that's why it's there. Now, this is an interesting point as well for leagues. Certain areas now drop the full thing. So if you kill a Hydra, you get a full Lance. If you kill Zora, you get a full Trident, for example. And that makes it a lot easier to build, particularly for core end, whereas some of the other places don't matter too much. And it is really only the... if it says Zora, there we go. Toxic Trident instead of the Magic Fang. This is the only big thing on this entire list that matters massively. Oh, I had Ferrogloves. Ferrogloves just happen to be one of my best in slots for the areas that I'm going. And one of the cool things about the T6 range relic, once again, is that if I get Ferrogloves, I can just wear them, and the minus accuracy doesn't matter, because I have infinite accuracy with range. So it kind of just falls into it really nicely. So let's finish up by having a look at the remaining relics, and I'll give you my thoughts on which one's good and why. So Animal Wrangler, this T1 relic, to me it makes sense. If you're going to go PVMing, probably want Animal Wrangler. And that's just because infinite food and ability to get chins quickly means more range XP and faster combat. That's all it is. It's just better because of that. If you're dealing with getting points or skilling or any other goal that's not PVM related, arguably the other two are better. Couldn't tell you which one. I think a lot of people are leaning towards the pickaxe. And the pickaxe can still be good for things like TOA and Guardians, so there's a good chance it's still strong. As for the teleport tier 2, or whatever they want to call it, you got Fairy's Flight, Banker's Heist, and Clue Compass. I'm very torn between all three of these, but the one thing that seems to be the case is that Fairy's Flight is not quite as good this league, and Clue Compass might be the hidden gem. The Clue Compass is really interesting because it gives you options to teleport to very niche locations. Especially where there are stash units, because you can teleport to stash units. And more than that, you can teleport to current clue steps. So if you're farming a particular boss and there's a really close clue step, you could try to go for that clue step, hold on to it, and TP to it on purpose instead of doing it. And it's a cool tactic, but I do think it suffers from the concept of, what if you never get the step? You know, you could get lucky, or you could get shafted for days, and that's going to really put a bit of a slow stride in your slow step in your stride. What the fuck am I saying? It's going to slow you down. At any rate, Clue Compass seems good potential, might go wrong. Bank Heist I think is interesting. I'm very much considering taking this because the idea to re-gear instantly is good, and we are going to have some natural teleports around the game anyway. The one to decays. Decays is the one that I would like to have a better TP to. But guess what? We fixed the problem with Total Recall. And this is the really contentious one right now. Recall versus Banker's Note. Because Banker's Note is so strong in the last league. Now, the reason why Banker's Note was strong was because people could eat food using ZCB on a 2-tick cycle and get non-stop damage coming out from the ZCB. That's all well and good, especially at somewhere like Nex, and maybe some certain scaled raids and stuff. But we have a huge amount of damage this league, in the form of like T-Bow just dealing 85 damage, 90 damage repeatedly with infinite accuracy. And we don't know about the spec relics yet, and it's also hard to justify going Ascania plus other builds to get a ZCB because you're sacrificing damage in other styles elsewhere. So Banker's Note doesn't quite have the utility that it did last time round, and Total Recall lets you farm incredibly fast with this restoration of hit points, prayer, and special attack. So I am personally leaning towards Total Recall because it allows me to take Bank Heist. And so Bank Heist gives me straight to the bank, I can re-gear, and then I can go straight back into the fight with Total Recall. And this concept is just basically about getting ahead as fast as possible. Getting ahead as fast as possible doesn't just mean faster unlocks and more content for me, it means I'm not going to get crushed by people who are trying to do Slayer in my area. If you guys have played these before, you know certain areas get pretty packed. And if you're not ahead of the game, and you're still training Slayer in the low levels, 200 people are going to come to your world and try and kill the same Banshee that you're trying to kill. And it's not fun. So there is a very big argument for trying to speed up your gameplay to get as far ahead as you can as quickly as possible to start grinding content freely. And this is another reason why Tyranwin first pick is actually quite nice, is because Gauntlet is instanced. Zorva is instanced. And then when I go Kurend, Raids is instanced. So I have a lot of instanced area bosses that I can have access to. And outside of maybe the Chinchompa zones in Tyranwin, my entire route is more or less instanced. So I'm not competing for anyone when it comes to these resources. So I'm able to get ahead, not be stunted by others, instantly go to a bank, and instantly last recall, which sounds quite nice. Now again, none of these, it doesn't mean that Banker's Note's bad, or that Clue Compass is bad, or Fairy Slight's bad. It just means that they're probably useful for different things, and for my routing, I think that Bank Heist and Recall sound good. I will defend Banker's Note to say, before I move on, Banker's Note's very good if you're learning content for the first time, or you're not very confident with PVM. Because it gives you an infinite supply of food and stuff, that's very valuable if you want to be able to learn content and brute force it. So don't shy away from it just because I'm not picking it. It could still be really good for you. But in the idea of getting ahead, it's not just infinite food for free. You have to get the infinite food. And if you're eating hard food, you're not attacking. If you're not attacking, you're not doing damage. If you're not doing damage, the NPC's not dying. If the NPC's not dying, you're not making progress. So this whole problem of like, just because I'm eating food or I'm unnoting stuff and I'm like chugging away at a boss, it could be slowing you down. And again, for me, Leagues is about getting ahead and trying to make that advantage work, because I think it's just more fun. So some pros, some cons in all cases, but Banker's Note carrying a few more cons, I think. Grimoire versus Overgrown tier, and there's one more they are yet to reveal. My take on Grimoire has been from day one that it sucks. And people are thinking, well, it gives you Piety and Rigor and Augury, and it's like, well, Augury is not that big anyway. Piety's an okay upgrade, but it's more of a convenience prayer, and Rigor is actually quite strong. As it stands, I'm taking Kurend, and I want to take Kurend, which means I get Rigor and Augury for free, and Piety's not too big a deal. Which means there's no reason on earth why I would take Grimoire, because it would be negating the usage of Kurend. And again, the concept of prayers and spells and stuff, they're not that strong in Leagues compared to your main weapon attack speed. I'm thinking taking Overgrown makes a bit more sense in terms of the point value and the immediate efficiency. Crops never die, planting seeds, not consumed, all that stuff. And it's just like non-stop herbs coming into the bank. That's a ton of XP, ton of levels, ton of points. And it means a ton of brews and restores when I need them for the actual endgame bosses and raids. Potentially infinite, just like constantly generated. As it stands, getting Bird's Nests can be a bit awkward, but we can do bird runs for that to help with Hunter. And then, of course, the actual red spider's eggs we get from doing Arachnus in Kurend, or just killing the small ones and picking some up. So the secondary ingredient is the important part, but I think Kurend solves that problem anyway, plus we have Fossil Island, so it's fine. Next here, I don't think it's been said yet, Golden God. This is the one where you can sacrifice money at an altar to get a Dragonbone equivalent. Another benefit of Fremi is that, of course, you get Vorkath, which is great, but you also get the construction building requirements and XP to be able to get a crafted altar, like a proper gilded altar. So your XP per hour is significantly better with Fremennik, I believe, compared to other regions. And so this is a relic that it's kind of on its own in its own tier, but it sounds pretty good. I'm not crazy about the concept of needing it if I have Fremi and whatnot, because I'm going to have the XP anyway, and it could be there's just like 2 other relics in this tier that are just so much better. I'm kind of hoping that's the case. But it's a cool idea. It shows they've got a lot of new stuff coming up in this league. No idea what tier this is. I mean, it could even be in the same set as one of these. Like, it could be in this one, in which case I'd probably take Overgrowth. We don't know. Yet to find out. And that's currently all we have. So this is the up-to-date picture. And we got 7 reveals left. Seven reveals. Now, plenty stuff to come. And I think all the latest reveals are going to be pretty big game changers. Oh, wait, and this one has been covered now, but we got 6 more to go. And I would expect a lot of them to be pretty big game changers. So keep your eyes peeled, and if you guys are interested in or need some advice for regions, ideas, things, come by stream. I can give you some ideas, or we got a Discord running. In my own Discord, we got some channels running for help. Plenty of people playing, lots of different ideas, plenty of different regions as well. And yeah, I mean, again, 5 days, everything could change. But I think at this point, the combat masteries have solidified my choice of range and my choice of region. So unless something comes along and it's completely crazy, we'll have to reassess. I think we're in for a good ride. Got some high hopes for this league. I think it is going to be genuinely like one of the most fun ones. Been working on it for a long time. The concepts look good. Echo bosses look very fun. And they're building from the success of Trailblazer and Trailblazer 2 in the sense of the region unlocks, which means they know what they're doing and they've had more time to polish the finer aspects of what makes leagues fun. So I am very excited. I'm probably going to be doing some stupid 40 hours on stream for the first few days. That's just how I like to play. And my strategy, as always, is play harder, not smarter. But yeah, I always get ahead with leagues. Last league was incredibly good. I finished my entire build in less than a week, including max gear. This week is this time round might take a bit longer, but there are also more items to grind because of the mega rares and how they work. But yeah, should be doing 20-minute infernos within a week with any luck. And yeah, one week left to go. 6 days now. So hopefully this was interesting. This is my insight so far. I may do another one if anything changes like massively, maybe the day before the league drops. Otherwise, you'll have to catch me when I'm actually running some stuff. But yeah, that's it, fellas. And if I don't make another video, we'll probably make some for the actual league itself. So good luck out there. And pick wisely. You can only pick once. See you guys.